And we are following breaking news out of Westwood, where a car has slammed into a market. We are hearing that it is the 99 Ranch Market. There are reports of injuries. Mark Liu is on the breaking news desk. Mark, what are you hearing about this?
Yeah, there's an enormous response down there, Amy, by LA City Fire and LAPD. Both firefighters and police now on the scene. They say this happened just at about 10 minutes after noon today. This initially came in as a call to LA City Fire of a car that hit a bicyclist, but apparently that car kept going through the intersection and then went directly into the building you see at the top of your screen. Now, as you mentioned, Amy, this appears to be both a combination 99 Ranch supermarket, which is an Asian supermarket, and then a bakery down there. You can see right there the car that is still within that structure. Now, LA City Fire has said that they currently have 7 patients here at the scene, at least in serious conditions. Some could be worse. And they believe that those were the people that were inside the building when they were struck. They say others were struck prior to that car going into the structure. Now, you can see all of Westwood Boulevard here is closed right now. And you see those tarps on the ground there, green, yellow, and red. Those are triage stations that are based on the severity of the injuries that they find inside. Now, a bit of good news, we don't see a number of patients down there. There might be someone on the green tarp down there, which would indicate a less severe injury. But we did see at least several people there sitting in some chairs being treated by LA City firefighters. Well, they have requested multiple ambulances here, Amy. Obviously, for the number of injured that are in this crash, you can see some LA City Fire apparatus moving around down there. Now, LAPD Media Relations says that they are investigating how this crash happened. They do not have any word at this point of any criminal activity here, that this was in any way an intentional crash, but they are investigating. There are multiple officers down there that are going to be securing the scene also. But right now, their initial indication is that this may have been some kind of an accident involving that car and a bicyclist. We can't even tell what kind of a car it is. It just does look like a silver sedan that is all the way into that bakery, still inside there. It's going to have to be towed out. I did hear on the radios that there was some efforts involving extrication. It might have been someone that was pinned or trapped behind some component of that crash, unknown if it was under the car or perhaps if something was knocked over onto that person inside of the bakery. But whoever that was, they were quickly taken out of the building towards an ambulance. And you can see at least 5 rescue ambulances, including Rescue 92 right there, Rescue 37. These are mostly from Fire Station 37, Battalion 9. That's in the area here in Westwood. But a massive response right now, Amy, as LA City Fire working to make sure that they get all of the injured people, parties here treated. We don't have any word yet on any fatalities. But as I said, LA City Fire said 7 patients so far in at least serious condition. That's going to necessitate a lights and sirens transport to the hospital.
Well, Mark, with this happening at a little after 12, you got a lot of people in this area. This is a very busy intersection. And I know we haven't heard anything about any fatalities at this point, but if SkyCal can pan back around by that fire truck, there was what appeared to be a white sheet on the ground. Did you see that as well, Mark? It was not near the tarps. It was a little farther up behind. I don't know if it had anything to do with this, but it did almost appear to be a white sheet on the ground there on Westwood, up beyond those tarps there on the other side by the fire truck there. We're not quite in that same direction, but up the street there on the other corner, it did appear that there was something in the street, almost looked as though it was a white sheet on the ground up behind the fire truck to the, I guess if it pans over to the left there, we could perhaps see it. But again, we have not heard of any fatalities. There was something in the street there that I saw that looked almost like a white sheet. And we don't know how many people were outside of the store. We know that there are reports that it was the bicyclist that was hit first. We don't know if there were people on the sidewalk, if people were still milling about. You know, it's 10 after 12 when this happened. A lot of people on their way to get lunch, run a few errands, but maybe what I saw was not, in fact, a white sheet, but there was something on the side there on the street. And Mark, you haven't heard of any fatalities.
Not yet, Amy. You know, that it doesn't mean that that doesn't exist down there. There are several sheets on the ground down there that could also just be medical material from where they treated patients. You can see this is the battalion chief down there, the command post. That's the battalion chief's car. That is very likely where they are coordinating the response, the efforts down there to make sure that everyone that is injured is getting treatment. But like I said, there's at least 7 patients. We are hearing at some points that there are patients that were listed of those 7 are closer to the critical status. Now, whether or not they have already left the scene in a rescue ambulance or not, but you can see the doors on at least Rescue 37 and Rescue 92 were open. So it's possible that there may be some treatment of patients there at the scene. And we don't have any information right now also on the status of the driver of that car. If that person is one of the 7 patients that were injured in this crash. It does appear that from what we saw with SkyCal that this vehicle, this car, is on all 4 wheels, so it didn't, end up on its side in any way. You can see a patient down there. It looks like a lady sitting there speaking to firefighters and police, obviously giving her account of what happened there. But she is placed directly on that green tarp, which would be, lightly injured or at least injuries in the minor category that did not need immediate life-saving efforts or a transport to or a trip to the hospital, lights and sirens. But you can see an LAPD sergeant down there talking with other officers down there about this accident. And again, Amy, we don't have any information yet that there was any sort of criminal component to this, only that this appears to be an accident between a car and a bicycle. And then unfortunately, that car went directly into that bakery there that you see. Now, I've been looking with SkyCal's video here to see if there's any evidence of a bicycle that's down there on the ground. We haven't seen anything like that. But you can see what appears to be the trunk open of that car down there. And perhaps, I can't tell if that silver object down there is part of the car or if it's part of the doorway there of that bakery. But there also does appear to be some water down there. It's unclear if there was a small fire or not. It's certainly possible. You can see some hoses that are out there. So there may have been a small fire at the conclusion of this crash. But you can see this entire intersection here of Westwood and Rochester now closed for this investigation and this triage area as they try to take care of all the people that are injured here.
Yes, Mark, still such a really a busy, really active scene here as we see so many fire personnel and police still on the scene trying to, get to the bottom of exactly what happened and, of course, treat all of the patients that were involved. And as you mentioned, there were reports of at least 7 injured. We have not received any confirmation of any fatalities. But we do still see that car right inside that building. We can only imagine how busy this intersection was at, a little after 12 noon while people are milling about. This is certainly a walkable area. And a lot of people, run a quick errand, walk to go pick up some lunch. And this market is quite popular. Again, this is the 99 Ranch market there in Westwood, right off of Westwood. Now that right there, Mark, see that white sheet there? That's what I was asking about.
That very possible could be a body. Yeah, I believe that is a body, Amy, you're right. Looking at how that firefighter lifted up the sheet there, that could very well be the first indication that someone unfortunately has lost their life in this collision. The crew in SkyCal did not want to zoom in too close because we don't want to show that. But I am also hearing, Amy, going back onto the radio traffic that was here that happened. This accident happened at about 12:11. LA City firefighters were on scene within minutes, and just about 7 minutes after arriving on scene, they declared that there were 5 patients here that needed to go ALS. Now, ALS is the LA City Fire Code for Advanced Life Support. What that means generally in layman's terms is that these patients need to go lights and sirens immediately to the hospital. The opposite of ALS would be something like BLS, which is Basic Life Support, which means that they can be taken to the hospital, but there does not need to be a heroic attempt to get them to the hospital immediately. Advanced Life Support, ALS transport, is usually reserved for someone that has life-threatening injuries in the serious or critical category. There were at least 5 patients that were declared at this scene that needed to go to the hospital ALS. They also said the first arriving firefighters, they identified that multiple people were trapped under the car upon first arriving here at the scene. So there was definitely an effort, a concerted effort to get those patients freed from underneath that car. It's unclear if those were the patients that needed to go to the hospital in that ALS or advanced life support category, but certainly a very horrific scene for the first arriving firefighters, as there were people that were trapped under that silver car inside of that bakery that needed to be rescued. And unfortunately, Amy, as you had mentioned, it does look like there is a covered body down there at the scene, which would indicate that someone did lose their life here.
Well, unfortunately, I was hoping that I was mistaken in seeing that, but unfortunately, we did see the firefighters back at that area, and we, of course, zoomed out so that you would not see that body. But it really does, make you wonder exactly the direction that this car was going, why that victim there is on, I believe that would then be Rochester Street, correct? Rochester Avenue. If we're at Westwood and Rochester, I believe that is Rochester, if I have my bearings straight here. But certainly, we are seeing at least one fatality there with someone under the sheet. We don't know if that was a bicyclist, somebody that was outside of the store. We don't know why that body is in that area of this scene, but unfortunately, we have seen at least one covered body, indicating at least one fatality. But again, we've heard of at least 7 injured in this. Again, this happening just after noon today, 12:10. What we initially heard was that a bicyclist was struck outside of the store and that the car then continued on into that 99 Ranch Market. And Mark, as you were talking, several of those patients were taken advanced life support. So these are people with serious injuries.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, as I continue to listen to the earlier radio traffic using the system we have here at the desk, where we can sort of rewind the traffic and listen to it because it's recorded here on servers here in the newsroom. It does appear that the first arriving firefighters also indicated that there were victims on Westwood Boulevard. They said that there are both victims inside of the structure and victims on the sidewalk and street. So it's possible that this car may have struck some people in addition to the bicyclist that ended up being outside of the building. So really quite a massive scene for firefighters. They all had to work very quickly. The battalion commander at the scene and the incident commander, they quickly assigned different firefighters, different groups in order to treat and assess each one of the individual patients out there. That's why something like a triage area is so important. They can categorize and classify who needs the medical treatment first, and then who can wait for a few minutes if their injuries are not as severe. That's what those tarps down there are for, the yellow, red, and green tarps. But you can see, like, there's still a enormous, that's 6 LA City Fire ambulances there awaiting any further transports to the hospital. Also just the manpower, having the extra paramedic resources there to help treat people on scene is a critical component of this situation. But it still looks like there's a group of firefighters that were looking at the entrance to that building. The good news is that much of the demeanor of these firefighters down there appears to be a little bit more relaxed. That sort of tells us here that most of the critical patients have already made it to the hospital, and that this now is sort of in a situation where they are assessing what they need to do next with what remains there, Amy.
All right, Mark, thank you. And joining us now from the LAFD is Lindsay Lance. Thanks so much for joining us. This is certainly a horrific situation here. Can you give us a better idea of what you know about this scene and what happened?
Sure, Amy. Yeah, thanks for having us. So we do have an update on our patient count here. On this scene, we had 10 total patients. Unfortunately, 3 people now have been confirmed deceased on scene. What we know at this point is that we do have that sedan-type car into the front of this bakery portion of the 99 Ranch Market. We unfortunately don't have information surrounding the circumstances quite yet. As you can see, we do have LAPD officers on scene with us trying to piece that together right now. But I can tell you, as our apparatus were on the way to the scene, we encountered a bicyclist who was not at the address, who stated that they were struck by the car. So we knew right away that this scene was likely larger than, this confined area here. So we are just working to get our arms around this. Like you said, we have our what we call triage tarps out for a multiple victim incident. We do have 4 of those patients so far already at hospitals. And then also, like you said, our more minorly injured patients will be the final ones to leave scene, sorted in order of their injuries, and we will get the rest of those to the hospital as quickly as possible.
Lindsay, I know that clearly this is very early in the investigation. Were there more than just one car involved? We saw what appeared to be like a silver, perhaps part of a car, maybe struck along with that other car that's still in the bakery section of the 99 Ranch. Did this involve more than one car?
That's a great question. We obviously have this single car that entered the building, but along with the bicyclist that we identified early on, we definitely could have other vehicles struck. And though we don't have it confirmed yet, a lot of times we have these incidents that are actually medical events for the drivers that later turn into large trauma events. So we're just trying to figure that out. Like you mentioned, we'll be identifying, and LAPD will be helping to identify any vehicles, any other patients, and what exactly the circumstances were that landed us here.
Yeah, Lindsay, you did mention, unfortunately, that 3 people died. We did see what appeared to be one victim there on the scene. The others were all rushed to the hospital and pronounced dead there, or are you still dealing with bodies inside that market?
No, So we have 3 determined deceased on that scene. They were not taken away from that scene. I can't tell you exactly where those victims are right now. We do have that one under a sheet on the street, but the other 2 we don't have locations on.
All right. Lindsay Lance from the LAFD, thank you so much for your time and certainly the information. And along with Mark Liu, I'm Amy Johnson. We've been bringing you this breaking news. We will continue to follow this and bring you the very latest on CBS LA at 4 o'clock.